there, I'm Claire Tansey. I am a cookbook author and cooking teacher, and I am going to show you how to make one of my favorite easy, quick weeknight dinners, roasted chickpeas with vegetables. This is a one-pot wonder. I am literally going to throw everything into my big baking dish, roast it, cover it with a bit of cheese, and serve it up. And this dish is naturally gluten-free. It can even be vegan if you skip the cheese or use vegan cheese. And it's just a fantastic way to use all of our favorite Canadian items. I've got lots of great produce and, of course, one of my favorite, long time forever pantry staples. I'm never without them, a can of chickpeas. So to make this recipe, you will need some tomatoes. These are quite big. And it doesn't actually even matter if they are perfectly ripe because we are going to roast them, so don't even worry about that. I have some red skin potatoes here. I'm not even going to peel them. That's why I like to get the red skin ones. A couple of sweet peppers, a nice big onion, obviously my can of chickpeas, which I am going to drain and rinse. I have some extra virgin olive oil, salt of course, and then I'm going to sprinkle on some goat cheese at the end just to kind of oomph it up just a little tiny bit. Okay, so let's get started. I'm just going to cut up all the vegetables and pop them into the roasting pan. It's really that easy. All right, let's start with the peppers. So I want to cut all of these vegetables into nice big wedges. And in fact, I want to make sure that the wedges are they're all going to cook in the same amount of time, but even better, I want to make sure that the peppers actually don't just get cooked and tender, but they actually almost caramelize and roast and get that beautiful, intense roasted pepper flavor. So the thing that I really need to make sure of is that the potatoes are going to be cooked, right? So the potatoes are the things going to take the longest to cook, and then everything else around it is just going to be various stages of cookedness. So this is the way that I like to do it. I like the roasted peppers to be quite roasty and yummy. I like the onions to be quite roasty and yummy as well, and the potatoes to be just nice and tender. So I'll show you the sizes that I get my vegetables to in order to get the dish just right. All right, 2 peppers here. You could, of course, use a green pepper. I don't love green pepper when it's in this dish. I prefer to have the sweetness of the sweet peppers. And I'm going to just get rid of these seeds. I've just got my, oh, there's my oven ready. I've just got my dish right here ready to throw everything into so that I'm going to dirty as few dishes as possible because this is a weeknight wonder for me. So I'm going to leave these pieces not huge, but also not too thin. So that's just a nice couple of big wedges there. And I'm going to roughly get the other ones at the same size. When it comes to the peppers, I would always go with a little bit smaller rather than a little bit bigger if you're trying to decide on sizes, just because they'll get that, like I said, that nice roasty caramelized flavor, which is so good. There we go. And that we always want more of. Okay, first ingredient done. Let's do the potatoes next, since they're sometimes a little bit of, well, I just want to make sure I get them just right. And I like to have these in wedges. So I'm going to cut the potato first, just directly in half. And then this way the potato doesn't roll around and it's a lot more safe for me as I cut through it. So now I'm going to just cut wedges. And with a potato this size, again, always go with a little bit smaller as opposed to a little bit bigger, because otherwise your potatoes are going to take forever to cook and, you know, nobody wants to be waiting for dinner. So these are, I mean, could you call that an inch across roughly? So I got 5 out of that half. Let's see about the second half. Yeah, I think probably about 5 as well. And I'll just do that again. Sort of depends. Sometimes I use 3 potatoes in this. Sometimes I use 2. It really depends on the size of the potato. Sometimes they're huge. I think this time I'm only going to use 2 because these ones are quite nice and big. But again, getting those wedges not too big. Oh, Hey, if this ever happens to you, you find a little bit of brown stuff. Look at that, a little bit of brown. Just cut that out. That's fine. You don't have to throw out the whole slice. Just cut the little brown bit out. Put that in the composter. All right, next up, let's do the tomatoes. And I am going to also cut these into big wedges. I love it when tomatoes are roasted. It's a fantastic way to continue to get tomatoes in your life, even if they are out of season. Because as they roast, oh look, it's a little heart. It's a little heart. Love you. I love you, tomato. Even if they're out of season, when they roast, they get really intensely flavored, like it really concentrates the flavor, and it just makes them so delicious. So roasted tomatoes are a revelation. Oh, I love them. So I'll get these ones into kind of slicey wedges, as you can see, like that. And these are almost not exactly going to disintegrate as they cook, but they really will concentrate, and the liquid from the tomato is going to provide some of the sauciness of the finished dish. These tomatoes also are enormous. So, I'm just going to go with it. Just going to go with it because I don't know about you, but if I only use half a tomato, the other half just sits there looking at me on the counter for the rest of the week. I don't know what's the matter with me. I'm like, I should just use that. I really should. This dish started its life as a side dish because, it's just a great, really easy side dish that you can make. It doesn't have a lot of fussing if you want a vegetable dish. That was before I put the chickpeas in. I used to just roast tomatoes and peppers and onions together with potatoes, and it's just nice, easy, brainless side dish, vegetable side dish. And then I thought, I love this dish so much. Could I add some protein to it, some heft to it, to turn it into a full meal? And that's when I thought of the chickpeas. I've always got a can of chickpeas in the pantry, and that's going to give me the bulk, the flavor, the protein, of course, the fiber, and all the other good stuff that chickpeas bring to the party. All right, let's get this onion in there, and then we're just about done. I'm just going to take off as little as possible from the stem and root, and then cut this onion in half to get the peel off of it. Now, a red onion would be great here if you had it, but honestly, if all you've got is a regular old cooking onion like I have here, it is perfectly acceptable as well. And onions are, gosh, everything good starts with an onion, doesn't it? Or ends with an onion, as I'm doing today. All right, I've got a little bit of extra. There we go. Just get that little bite off there. Okay, everybody into the compost. Let's see, just about there. Oh, now I've got stuff all over my hands. Whew. All right, so just going to cut this onion into wedges as well. And one of the things that I like to do with this onion is break apart the wedges so that some of them get caramelized and roasted as well. So I'm really going to try to use the oven's heat to maximum effect. So I'm going to cut this into little wedges, but as I stir all the ingredients together, once I get to that stage, then I'm going to try to break the onion up a little bit. Okay, and that can go into the pan. Now let me just quickly wipe down my board. Here we go. All right, so I have this huge pile of beautiful vegetables here. I'm going to douse with 1/4 cup of extra virgin olive oil. You do need quite a bit of oil here in order to get all of the vegetables covered, because if they don't have oil on them, then they won't roast in the same way. You can't roast a dry vegetable. I'm afraid it just doesn't work the same way. It just gets dried out and weird and not flavorful and delicious. So you can see I'm just using my hands to toss everything around, breaking up those onions when I come to them so that I will get some roasted a lot, some roasted a little, and The other thing that's great about this dish that I think is part of the magic of the dish is that all the vegetables really flavor each other. So the onion really flavors the potatoes. Well, everything. The onions and peppers and tomatoes all flavor the potatoes, and they all flavor each other. And the oil also works to do the same thing. So it's a great dish that looks like it's just a big old dish of roasted vegetables, but the sum is greater. The whole is greater than the sum of its parts. All right, now the other thing I like to make sure of as I am just going through this is make sure that none of the potatoes are really stuck together, because sometimes they want to do that. And if the potatoes stick together, then they won't roast properly. And this is a bit of a two-stager, so it's going to go in the oven at 425 for about a half an hour. Oh wait, we don't have the salt on yet, so I'm going to do the salt in a second. Let me wash my hands. So it's going into the oven at 425 for about half an hour. Then we give it a stir and reduce the heat to 400 and let it cook until the potatoes are really tender and everything's roasted, which will be about another 20 to 30 minutes depending on the vegetables. Let's not forget the salt. Okay, here we are. Sprinkle that all around. Good. All right, so now this is ready. It's time for the real star here. Let's get this side here. Let's get those chickpeas opened up. Gotta find the can opener if you're gonna open a can. If there are chickpeas in the pantry, then there's dinner in the pantry. So I like to drain and rinse these. You don't need all the extra liquid in that roasting pan. And I like to give it just a little quick rinse. Go. And now I'm going to add those to the roasting pan here. Get them nice and evenly mixed, sprinkled over. And then you just encourage them to kind of find their own nooks and crannies. And they will pick up some of the salt and some of the olive oil. And of course, they will pick up the flavors of everything else that is in this lovely dish. Okay, so now it's a set it and forget it. I'm just going to throw this into the oven, uncovered, let it do its thing, stir it in about a half an hour. And then when it is totally cooked, that's when I'm going to crumble on my goat cheese, put it in just for a hot second until the goat cheese gets a little bit warm, and then it's dinner time. Could it be much easier? I don't think so. Tons and tons of vegetables, tons of flavor, tons of fiber. You know what? Less talk. Let me get this thing in the oven. All right, this has been roasting for about an hour now, and I'll show you how beautiful it looks. Look at that gorgeousness. We have got some crispy potatoes just at the edge here. They're nice and tender. The peppers are all golden. There's just lots of different textures in here. The key here is I want to make sure, the most important thing here is to make sure that the potatoes are tender. So, of course, the best way to do that is just take a little knife and stab it into the potatoes. And if they're nice and tender, then you know that everything else is going to be tender too. Okay, so I like to finish this off with a little bit of goat cheese. You can also use feta cheese, or you can skip the cheese entirely, which will make it completely vegan. But let's just get a nice little bit. I really love goat cheese with peppers. It's one of my favorite flavor combinations. So I'm just going to crumble a little bit of goat cheese over top and then just throw it back in the oven for another minute or two. And then it is ready to eat. Maybe a sprinkle of parsley, maybe a little bit of cracked pepper. You could even hit it with one more little drizzle of extra virgin olive oil just to get a little tiny bit more in there. Of course, it doesn't have to be extra virgin. You could always be using beautiful cold pressed canola or whatever your favorite flavorful oil is. Goat cheese fingers. All right, so just gonna fire this right back into the oven for, it'll just take 3 minutes maybe, and then it'll be ready to devour. See you in a second. Look at this, so delicious. Now I turn on the broiler just to get a little bit of extra browning all over these pieces, but that is optional. Look at that. What a delicious, easy dinner. All vegetables, so hearty because of those rich chickpeas that are in there. I'm going to serve this up. It would be great with maybe a green salad on the side, just for a little crunch and a little interesting flavor dynamic there. But this is a terrific meal to have on those nights when you're trying to be budget smart and not eat as much meat and really focus on those healthy, delicious ingredients that are already in your pantry. I can't wait to dig into this. Maybe give it one more little drizzle of olive oil and a bit of cracked pepper, and it is going to be good to go. I hope you have enjoyed this, and I hope that you love this dish just as much as I do. Happy cooking!